Nora Speaks is a weekly podcast that tugs at the soul and consciousness of the Black community. With show topics such as youth empowerment, education, women's impact, and civic engagement, Nora Speaks challenges the listener to not only join the movement, but be the movement. On the show, you'll learn from insightful guests who have demonstrated capacity in these fields and more, and I'm your host, Nora Muhammad. Welcome to the show. Welcome to episode 142 of the Nora Speaks podcast, and I am your host, Nora Muhammad. It's a privilege to be with you, and thank you for coming back to listen to another episode of the Nora Speaks podcast. This is exciting. I'm happy that you are with me, and I'm grateful that you find value in the Nora Speaks podcast. And because you do, I would encourage you to share Nora Speaks podcast with your family and your friends. Become a subscriber on one of the many podcast streaming apps. You can use Castbox, Spotify, Radio Public. Some of the more popular ones include iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. There's so many ways for you to listen to the Nora Speaks podcast, or you can go to my website, noraspeaks.com, and you can hit the podcast tab and you can listen and stream directly from the website. Again, welcome back. And, last episode I talked about celebrating my third year in this podcasting game, and it's definitely been interesting. It's been enlightening. It's been educational. It's been challenging. And I'm grateful for all of it. I'm grateful for everything that I've learned, and I'm grateful for some of the mistakes that I've made because, I was able to recover and learn so much from it. And, anyone who's accomplishing or trying to accomplish anything in life, that sometimes you can learn more from the mistakes that you make than some of the successes that you have. You can learn more from some of the failures that you have than some of the wins that you have. So, we think of mistakes and failings as opportunities to learn. And I've definitely learned a lot. And as we are walking into 2021, a new year is coming upon us. But we have the same problem in terms of COVID-19, the coronavirus. We have the same problem affecting us in terms of community health issues with this pandemic. And, it's been a very challenging year for so many of us. It's been challenging for our students who have to learn in new and different ways. It's been challenging for those who have lost income because of shutdowns. It's been challenging for those whose businesses have been affected because also of shutdowns. Students are now at home and parents have to figure out what to do and how to help them with their education. Teachers have to make adjustments with educating students in a virtual way. And we know how hard it can be to grab a student's attention when we're in person with them, let alone now we're trying to do it through a screen. And then there's those disparities with technology, right? There's those disparities with internet access. So there's challenges all around. And, we are coming into a year of dealing with this. And because we've been dealing with this so long, I know that many of us are becoming fatigued. They're calling it, COVID fatigue, where we're just fed up. We're getting tired of the restrictions. We're getting tired of taking the precautions. But I want to urge you in this episode to not let your guard down with COVID-19. Continue to learn about the preventative measures that you and your family, your friends should take so that you can do your best and they can do their best to stay safe from contracting this virus. And, if we were to become one of those who did contract the virus, that we prepared our bodies in such a way that our bodies are ready to fight, for its health and fight for life. And that comes with, the foods that we're eating, that comes with, in general, our lifestyle. So in this episode, I'm going to talk about, what we can do to maintain our safety. Many of us continue to go to work every day. Many of us work with the public. Those, we call them frontline workers now. We're thinking about grocery stores or retail stores, and we are confronted with the public who are coming in. And, some of us do not have the opportunity to work from home. Some of us are driving buses, right? Some of us are at the checkout counters. And, many businesses have done what they could to keep their employees safe. But it's really up to us to do what we know to do to keep ourselves safe. And the first thing is to wear a mask. And is to wear a mask over your nose, over your mouth, and it is also to wear the right mask. When this thing first started, there were so many debates over should we wear a mask, should we not wear a mask, and then the type of mask. And some say, look, if you just use any barrier, that's better than nothing at all. And I would agree with that. However, I would encourage listeners to do our best to try to get an N95 mask if you can. Right now, the masks that are being reserved for the medical personnel, they can be very, very hard to find. So you can find the KN95. You can find them in some supermarkets. You can find them online. And if you do not have that, then there are other masks that you can use. But I would encourage you to use something that is not thin, that is not, easily breathable. Meaning, obviously, you want all masks to be breathable, but you don't want a thin piece of material, and any old germ can just make its way right on through there, not only through to you, but also through from you if you were to have it yourself and be asymptomatic. I was in a store one time and I couldn't believe it. This man had a mask on, but it was crocheted, right? So I'm thinking, what exactly are you trying to do here? A crocheted mask is no protection at all. It's no protection from him, and it's no protection for him. So first, wear a mask, and wear a mask that will provide you and others the right amount of protection. Wear a mask around family members. Sometimes we may feel uncomfortable wearing a mask around people that we're close to, whether they're our friends or whether they're our family members who we don't live with. Some of us can feel awkward about wearing a mask around people that we're close to. But I would encourage you, especially if they're not people who live in your home, to wear a mask. Forget about the awkwardness. Think about living, right? Think about having a life where you're not impacted. Not everybody is dying of this virus, fortunately, but many people are significantly impacted in terms of their own personal health outcomes. This virus, this COVID-19 impacts your kidneys. It can impact your lungs. It can impact your heart, let alone all of the strange neurological issues that people are having. There's something that's called a long hauler. And these are people who have had COVID, who have apparently recovered and are now testing negative, but are still having some very strange side effects, including fatigue, including muscle weakness, including neurological issues that the doctors just don't have a handle on. So I would encourage you, when you're around people that you do not live with, to wear a mask around them. Just because they look fine, right? I feel like I'm having a conversation reflecting back to when we were teaching teens about, using protection, using condoms, or, getting STD or STI test. The person, they look fine. Yeah, sure. Even with COVID-19, somebody can look fine, but they can still be sick. They could still not be sick, but they can still be positive for this virus. So just because somebody looks fine, just because they're not coughing, does not mean that you can't get it from them, and it doesn't mean that you don't have it yourself. So wear a mask, and wear a mask around people that you don't live with. Stay 6 feet away from other people. Try to do everything possible to maintain your distance. And that also can include avoiding crowds, avoiding confined spaces with people. A lot of people still have to ride the subway. A lot of people still have to take public transportation. And it's not easy for buses or trains to provide 6 feet social distance. So when possible, avoid those places. And if you have to be in those places, definitely wear a mask. If you have a face shield, add that to it. If you don't have a face shield, wear sunglasses. That way you can protect your eyes, because remember, you have mucous membranes in your eyes, your nose, and your mouth. So do what you can to protect yourself. And also, let's not forget washing our hands, and washing our hands thoroughly. That is not just running water on our hands, rubbing a little bit of soap, and we're done after 12 seconds. Wash your hands thoroughly with soap, with water. Rinse your hands, use a towel to dry your hands, and then to turn off the knob. Sometimes I'll be in a public space, even during COVID-19, even during this pandemic, and I still see women just not washing their hands thoroughly, and then after they wash their hands, for 10 seconds or 15 seconds, and then they turn the knob off with their bare hands, then they're fixing their hair, they're touching their face, they're touching up their makeup, and I'm thinking, no, don't do this. So people just don't always know how to wash their hands, and we can't take for granted that they do. And so washing our hands thoroughly is so, so important. We could never guess how much germs and bacteria we get on our hands when we're touching doorknobs, when we're touching railings, when we're touching our cars, when we're touching the grocery shopping cart, right? When we're touching the touchpad, when we're checking out. I mean, there's so many opportunities that we can be getting germs on our hands. And listen, whether we're talking about the pandemic and the age of COVID-19 or otherwise, we have to be very thoughtful about what we touch, how often we're touching. And if we do have to touch things with our hands, I encourage you to use sanitizer when you do. Do not let your guard down. I know that we're getting tired of wearing masks. I know we're getting tired of having limitations or restrictions on our movements, and we have to be thoughtful about everything that we do. Well, then just be thoughtful. Be thoughtful. You do not want this. I don't want you to get it. I don't want to get it. And fortunately, I'm grateful that I can say that I haven't contracted it. But that doesn't mean that I won't. I pray that if I do happen to contract it, then my body is prepared to fight this thing off, and to not, suffer with serious consequences of having it. But what I will say, though, is prevention is the best tool that we have to protect ourselves. Prevention. And we can prevent this if we're smart and if we're following the guidelines that are set out for us, and encourage our children to do the same. And it can be difficult because this requires a level of discipline that many of us maybe have never exhibited before. And our children, it may require a level of discipline that they've never exercised before, but we have to encourage them to do so. And we also have to encourage our older family members, our older family members, and whether it's a parent, whether it's a grandparent, whether it's an aunt or an uncle, we have to encourage them as well. You do what you can to stay safe. Don't let cousin so-and-so come over. What is she doing there? She doesn't need to be there. Encourage them to be safe, and try to make a family plan with this. I'll say specifically and talking about my own grandmother, my brother and I, we are texting and calling each other and talking about what should happen, what shouldn't happen, and what we can do to help her be safe. So have a family plan, even for those older family members who may be a little more casual or who don't seem as concerned about this as you or and maybe your siblings or your cousins. Have a plan for them as well, so that you can do what you can to help them stay safe and stay healthy. One thing that we can't do is wish this away if we had it. We can't say, oh man, I wish I hadn't have, not worn a mask. Well, yeah, you can wish that, but if you've been reckless and you've exposed yourself and you've contracted it, well, now we have to deal with the implications of having this virus. And they can be severe and they can be traumatic, and they have been severe and they have been traumatic for a lot of people. I just want to share some quick tips about what to do if you were to contract it. I want to share some symptoms that you can monitor yourself or your family members, and when you should seek medical attention or emergency medical attention. So I'm going to share some of that, and I'll be brief. Some of the symptoms that we know of COVID-19 or the coronavirus, they mimic symptoms of the flu or the common cold, and they include fever and chills, a cough, shortness of breath, fatigue, muscle aches, and body aches, and I'm hearing about extreme headaches. People say they have a loss of taste, a loss of smell, congestion, a sore throat, diarrhea, or nausea and vomiting. And so right now, you can have all of this, and you could just have, well, except for loss of taste or smell, but you could have this and it just be the flu, or you can have some of this and it could be COVID-19. So if you were to experience any of these symptoms, I encourage you to go and get tested. And there are many opportunities for us to get free testing, and you can check with your local municipality, your local health department, to find out where you can get tested. You can contact your doctor, your family physician, to learn where and how you can get tested. And there's also different kinds of tests, and you should know the test, or your doctor can advise you of the test that is the right test for you to take if you're having symptoms and you think that you have this. Also, I will say, if you've been exposed to someone who has had COVID-19, if you find out that there's someone that you were around that has it, I would encourage you to quarantine yourself for, initially they said 14 days. Now they're talking about 7 days because people are just having such a difficult time sitting still for 14 days. But if you've been around someone who has had this, I would encourage you to limit your contact with others. Stay home if you can, but reduce how often you're around other people, because you can have this for days and not know it, and there's such a thing as a false negative test, where your viral load isn't such at the time of testing where it will show up in a test. So if you've been exposed to someone who has it, sit down, keep your distance. And if you do have to be around others, then, obviously wear a mask so that you can protect them from the potential that you may have it. Now, if you were to contract COVID-19, and for a lot of people, thankfully, they do not have to be hospitalized. For the majority of people, they don't have to be hospitalized. So if you can, stay home. If you're having very mild symptoms, listen to what your doctor is saying. Stay in touch with your doctor. Do not go out. Do not be around other people. Do not go to public places. And if you have to, because everybody's situation is not ideal, if you have to leave your home, again, wear a mask. But if you have it, stay home, and really stay home so that you can rest, get fluids, so that your body is given the right rest that it needs so that you can, fight this thing off and get healthy. I've read where a person that's infected with COVID-19, they can spread it 48 hours, 2 days after they've been infected, right? So that's not long at all. And again, once you're infected, you may not know until the third or the fourth day. Some people, are feeling ill right away, but many people are not feeling ill until several days into it. And then they've been around other people or they've been around friends and everybody looks healthy, so nobody's wearing a mask, So if you have been around others and you have it, let them know. Call them, let them know that you have it so that they can either get tested or quarantine themselves. Now, if you were to get this and you're at home, it's good if your house has the capacity for you to be isolated in the home. The CDC recommends that the person who is infected have their own bedroom and bathroom when possible. But if not, then the person who has it should, if they can, to the extent possible, to disinfect those common areas that they use. So, for example, if they use the bathroom, then they should, if they can, disinfect the areas that they touch, that they use, so that those who have to use those same facilities or the same common areas are at less risk of infection. If someone in your home is infected, then if you have to help them, you wear a mask, you wear gloves. And if you need to go online to understand the right way to take off a mask and the right way to take off gloves, then you should do so. I see people all of the time touching their mask in ways that can enhance the spread of the virus if it's present. I see people taking off their gloves in a way that can enhance the spread of the virus if it's present. So there is a specific way that medical practitioners take on masks, put on gloves, and take off masks and gloves. And if you need to research that online, I would definitely encourage you to do so. Now, if you have it and you've been encouraged to stay at home, but your symptoms are increasing, you must go to the emergency room. And some of the significant symptoms that you should go to the emergency room with include trouble breathing, chest pain, confusion, an inability to stay awake. So if a caregiver sees that this person just seems to be unconscious, seems to be confused, can't wake up, is very difficult to arouse, that person needs to go to the hospital. If a person's face or lips become blue, that person needs to go to the hospital because that means they're not getting enough oxygen in their blood. And they need oxygen right away. So you need to call emergency medical services 911. In these cases, get that person to the hospital so that they can have medical intervention. I know we're getting tired of this. I know that many of us are dealing with this fatigue. I know many of us just kind of want this over, but it's here. It's here and it's with us. And we really want to come on the other side of this in good shape. So do what you can. I've known several people who've had it. Some have had it worse than others. But from what I hear, it's rough. From what I hear, it's rough. So, keep yourself safe. Keep your family safe. Keep your loved ones safe. And be someone to share this information with others. And, do what you can. Wear your mask. Limit the contact that we have with others. Whether you have to do your shopping online through one of these grocery delivery services. I would also encourage you to know the count in the state, in the county, and the town that you live in. Know the count so that you know at what risk you are when you are going out in public. So know the count. And you can go to your county's website to get this information. In my county, I can go right to the website and I can know how many positive cases have been reported for my state, for my county, and for my town. And I would encourage you to do the same. Once we have this, we can't just wish it away. So what I encourage us to do is do everything we can so that we don't get it. But if we do get it, I hope that you take the precautions that I've shared with you. Also, eat well. Eat plenty of fruits, eat plenty of vegetables, get plenty of exercise. Help our bodies stay strong. And if you're of many of our people that have some other condition like diabetes, like high blood pressure, like heart disease, definitely take those necessary precautions and keep an eye on our elders to encourage them to take these precautions and to monitor the people who come around them. I want to thank you for listening to this episode of the Nora Speaks podcast. I really wanted to share this. This is an important topic. I see that some of us are getting casual. There's a vaccine on the way. It's up to you with your medical provider to determine if you should get the vaccine. I'm not really going to speak on that. I know that there's a history in this country where we have suspicions with medical providers, and rightfully so. But I would encourage you to make that decision with your medical provider, with your family, on whether or not you will take the vaccine once one is available. But do the preventative measures that you can do and that we have control over so that we can stay safe in this very, very difficult time. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Nora Speaks podcast. Until next time, stay in peace. Thank you for listening to another episode of the Nora Speaks podcast. Be on the lookout for a new episode coming at you fresh next week. And as always, if you want to learn more about me and the work that I do, visit my website, noramahammed.com. Or if you have a listener question, email me at info@noraspeaks.com. You can also follow the Nora Speaks podcast on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Nora Speaks Podcast. I'll be sure to include links in the show notes. If this show has value to you, please subscribe, rate, and review, and share it with family and friends. And be sure to check out previous episodes. And remember, don't just join the movement, be the movement. Stay in peace.